Friends, I am Suraj Rajput. Today we will discuss about the play Tughlaq by Chris Karnad. This video is useful for every college students. This is also useful for UPSC aspirants who are preparing for exam from English medium. Let's begin. We will discuss about 2 points. At first we will look about the plot of the play. In the plot, Tughlaq is Karnad's second play written in 1964. The play was originally written in Kannada and then translated in Kannada by Karnad himself. It is all about the life of Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who was ruled in India in 14th century. There is a lot of controversy among the historians about the character of Tughlaq, but Karnad has presented this man as a man of opposites. The central theme of the play is the complexity in the character of Sultan Tughlaq, who has both the elements good as well as evil. He is a visionary man as well as man of action. Other characters also present Tughlaq's dual personality. His close associates, Barani and the scholarly historian Najib, are practical politicians like them. From the very first scene, we come to know about the complex personality of Tughlaq. He can be considered as a learned and an intelligent man. His abilities to learn and curiosity to know, and he is master in playing chess. He has the knowledge of Quran more than any Sikh, and also a good reader who has read Greek, Farsi and Arabic literature. Tughlaq wanted his life as a garden of roses, where even thorns also give delight. His imagination expresses his sense about literature. The character of Sultan Tughlaq can be compared with Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. The play Christopher Marlowe is the main hero of this play. Dr. Faustus, who has same hunger of knowledge, and he had a tragic and the same tragic, and Tughlaq has also faced. He wanted to make a new India, and for him it was very difficult, but he is ready to explain what people did not understand. This learns how he can explain tomorrow to those who have not even opened their eyes to the light of today. But then even I remember few things, like Tughlaq changed capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, and from there went to Delhi. Tughlaq, written by Chris Karnad in 1964, is the best loved play about an idealist 14th century Sultan of Delhi. Muhammad bin Tughlaq and elegy on the Nehruvian era, which started with ambitious idealism and ended up in delusionment. Karnad shows the evolution of Tughlaq from an idealist to a tyrant, lusty of power and fame, something anyone and any Indian for that matter can relate to it easily, especially people who are familiar with the Nehruvian era of Indian politics. Chris Karnad's play Tughlaq explores the character of one of the most fascinating kings of occupy the throne of Delhi, named Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He ruled for 26 years, a period of unparalleled cruelty and agonizing existence for his subjects. He is fascinating because though he was one of the most learned monarchs of Delhi and had great ideas and a grand vision, his reign was also an object failure. His strategy ruled with great ideals of a unified India, of Hindus and Muslims being equal in the eyes of the state. He abolished the Indus tax, jizya, on the Hindus, and the Sultan being the first among equals. He understood the value of money as not deriving from its intrinsic worth but from the promise behind it, and introduced copper coins. Yet in 20 years his reign had degenerated into an anarchy, and his kingdom has become a kitchen of death. Chris Karnad's play explores why this happened. The play was immensely popular at the time it was produced in 1964. India had within the same span of nearly 20 years a mere coincidence descended from a state of idealism to disillusionment and cynicism, and hence the play found a chord that resonated in the minds of many people at that time. The issues posed by the play remain relevant even today, not only in a political sense but also for organizations. The play recaptures the significant events starting shortly after Tughlaq's ascension to the throne, his proclamations of idealism, his calling upon his people to be a part of the building of a new empire of prosperity, peace, and amity. But he ascended the throne by ambitious means, killing his father and brother during prayer time, and though no one was sure. This led to a lack of credibility among his followers from the time he ascended the throne. No one believed what he professed. The play outlines his clever plots to eliminate his opponents and his surviving and assassinations attempt by his own courtiers. This was a turning point in his life. He decided to shift his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, ordered every single subject to move from Delhi, banned prayer altogether, and imposed unspeakable cruelties on his subject. The miseries of the people during the journey, the corruption that was huge and endemic, and Tughlaq's progressive alienations and isolations from his people are dramatically portrayed. The play ends with scenes of utter chaos and misery in the kingdom, and Tughlaq being left alone, having been abandoned by those who survived him. That is major characters in the play. The first protagonist character is Tughlaq. In the play, Tughlaq emerges as a headstrong and idealistic ruler. He is vulnerable and constantly admits his mistakes and allows himself to be punished publicly. He moves his capital to Daulatabad because it is a city dominated by the Hindus. This move will further the cause of togetherness and communal unity through this character. The idealism of the Nehruvian era is commented upon. Guilty of parricide, Tughlaq is often on the defensive when he is questioned of his crime. His uncompromising generosity and sense of social justice embraces all religions and treats them in an impartial fashion. This character is a device that represents a sketching critique of the nationalist nations of communal harmony and religious coexistence, the very ideas that we are valorized before independence, but later turned into an anticlimax with the partition of India. The opening scenes reflect the idiosyncrasies and eccentricities of this character. He contemplates to equate the value of copper coins with silver dinars in order to establish himself as a worthy ruler. He exposes himself to public scorn and invites public condemnation. He hastens the process of his own nemesis through a series of badly contrived measures at projecting himself as a tolerant and efficient ruler. His irrational and erratic methods are severely criticized by his countrymen and citizens. He emerges as a shrewd contriver and a mercilessly ambitious ruler. He is responsible for the assassinations of Sheikh Mohammed, his severest critic, who accuses him of parricide and of being un-Islamic. He stabs Saifuddin When he tries to conspire against him, he is doomed because of his own follies and failures and becomes an insensitive murderer. The height of his insanity is reflected in the later episodes of the play. He later becomes a divided self and suffers from inner turmoil and contradiction. His ultimate isolation in a world turned alien gives a tragic dimension to the play. Tughlaq might be perceived as an overambitious alien emperor who aims to devoid new cities and empires, subjecting the culture of a people to colonial strain. As seen, represents the progressive degradation and dehumanization of Tughlaq, leading to his tragic downfall. The second character is stepmother. The stepmother of Tughlaq constantly appears in the earlier scenes of the play. She is torn apart by conflicting emotions. Her overriding concern for her son is in contradiction with her awareness of the fact that he is guilty of parricide. She appears troubled and confides in Najib, the courtier and politician. She is consistently projected as an embodiment of rationality and concern. She later murders in order to save her son from ultimate ruin. Tughlaq orders her to be stoned to death for the unwarranted act. The third character is Aziz. Muhammad is very manipulative, witty, imaginative, secretive, and ruthless. Aziz provides his ironic parallel. Like him from the very beginning, Aziz is clear about what he is to do in future. When he reaches his destination in pursuit of realizing his dream to be rich by hook or crook, he manipulates the decision of the government, giving compensation to those whose land has been confiscated by the state. He is a Muslim, but in order to get the compensation, he disguises himself as a Brahmin. Thus, he punctures the balloon of the king's welfare policies. If Muhammad is confident that everything will be settled after he reaching Dawlatabad, Aziz is also confident of his plans. He tells Azam, "There is money here. We will make a pile by the time purchased to be a very religious and benevolent king." Aziz is disguised as a Brahman, though he is a Muslim washerman. Ironical, he appears as a Brahman and ends up as a special messenger to the king. He becomes as instruments in exposing the cruelty and corruption prevalent in Muhammad's regime when he refuses to help a woman with a dying son in her lap and asking for help for his medical aid. Aziz expects money from her, knowing full well that her husband is bedridden and she is helpless. Asked by Aziz why he does not let her go to the doctor, very stoically she says, "It is a waste of money. I am doing her a favor." For Muhammad and Aziz, politics holds a common interest. Aziz's comments about politics are ironically true. Politics, it is a beautiful word. Wealth, success, position, power, yet it is full of brainless people. People not with an idea in their head. When I think of all the tricks in our village to pinch a few torn clothes from people, if one uses half that intelligence here, one can be robbed of power. It is a fantastic word. Like Muhammad, he also makes use of religion and caste for his personal gains. He knows that even if the Hindu woman is not allowed to leave the camp, she cannot complain against him as Muslim. According to a Brahminical dogma will send her to hell, which she never desires. Furthermore, he is cruel like Muhammad in taking life of someone. He kills Ghiyasuddin and starts dancing after that, which shows that he has no regrets of any sort after killing someone. His singing and dancing over a dead body reminds us of the neurotic self of the emperor. After killing Ghiyasuddin and putting on his robes, he asked the horrified Azam, "How do I look?" The great grandson of the Caliph laughed. "The fool, you laugh. Celebrate, what are you crying for? Dance, dance, sings." When he is to present himself before the king, he aptly defines himself, "I am your majesty's true disciple." Indeed, Aziz appears as his shadow or the other Muhammad. It is perhaps because of this parallelism between them that Muhammad pardons him even for his grave misdeeds. And then fourth character is Azam. Azam is a close friend of Aziz and his partner in the play. Both of them are vagabonds and live mostly by robbery and deception. Aziz is undeniably the more cunning of the two. Azam's actions are staged on a smaller scale and Aziz's actions have larger ramifications. They constantly comment upon and analyze the policies of the Sultan and provide a variety of perspectives on the political climate of the play. And the last character is the Najib. Sorry, it is not last, but it is fifth character. He is a politician and a shrewd contriver, a Hindu who later embraced Islam. In most of the scenes, he is seen advising the Sultan on matters of political actions and diplomacy. He is an advocate of ruthless political explanations and domination and presents a perfect contrast to Barani. The historian, in the words of Sultan, he wants pounds of flesh and blood. He does not have the patience to breathe life into these bones. He represents the more rational aspects of Tughlaq's self and is a constant companion in terms of royal political affairs. The last character is Sheikh Imamuddin. He is a Maulvi and probably the harshest of critic of Tughlaq. He openly proclaims Tughlaq to be an Islamic and invites his hostility. He gives public lectures and condemns Tughlaq as guilty of parricide. He tries to influence the general public through his inflammatory speeches, deriding the actions of the Sultan. He is later murdered in a cleverly crafted plot of the Sultan. Thank you to watch the video.